Was your path to becoming a professional screenwriter the path that you thought it was going to be? Going back to even before you applied for film school?
Yes.
And just the vision of whatever it was, an
Yes.
18-year-old seeing, this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be the next Cassavetes or whatever.
Yes.
And then, time moves on, and was it in line with that? Because people think it's going to be this, and you're going to be in a convertible BMW.
No, it's the
101.
romanticized image. No, and then it's more of a craftsperson job. It's a career, but I look at it as a job. It is my job, and I'm blessed to have the job, and I'm blessed to be working. I really like to work, and I take as much work as I can. I turn down things that I don't like or can't do, but it's nice to be in a place where a producer calls you and says, "Are you available?" I've also been in a place where you turn in your thing and go, "Am I good enough?" And you wait, and they say, and 6 months later, "Oh, I didn't read it yet." You know what I mean? Which is the norm. So whatever level of the business you're working at, to have any type of success, I've also realized is an amazing thing. It's hard. And many people can look down at, unless you're the highest echelon at the A-list, and say, well, if you're not that, then I'm not impressed by what you do. And it's like, okay, I get it. You've never really struggled to get one thing made. So you wouldn't say that to someone who's been slogging away the 10-year overnight success. Like I said, it was 6 years out of film school, 6 years before I had my first professional job that I was later fired from quickly. And then 7 years for my spec to go through all the wrong people, and the spec almost won the Nickel Fellowship, and all these adventures with that one spec. Now I wrote other ones, right? But for it to finally end up, me sitting on the set first day of filming going, wow, this has been 7 years, and every script and project has its own journey. But sure, out of film school, I thought that they were going to hand us, our diploma and our 3-picture deal, which is the joke, where you just be like, of course I'll be working, and maybe as a PA, which I never did because I didn't want to, I knew how to make films. I didn't want to spend 18 hours a day not writing. So I worked in restaurants as a waiter because then I could always write. That's going through college. But then you settle into a place where you finally are at whatever level you are and have the players that you are hired, the people that you know. And do I still want to get to higher levels? Absolutely. But no one can take away my ability to write and create projects. So that's the thing. So the next step for me would to be moving into more of a producing aspect. Directing, I've enjoyed, but I would have probably pursued it out of film school, and I really like the fact that as a writer, you can go anywhere. Like I mentioned, I was in Italy last year for 6 weeks, and I was writing a screenplay. So if you have a laptop and internet connection, you can write anywhere. But a director needs a film crew and a big, I have some friends who worked 2 years on a movie directing it, from beginning to end. That's a big endeavor, and I like the fact of being able to be mobile, and work and maybe do more, this last year I've had 6 movies written, so it's I couldn't direct 6 movies, I don't think, in a year.
Yeah, and it's just so expensive
Yeah.
too. That's a great thing about the writing is
Yeah.
that even though sometimes they're underappreciated, it's
Yes.
it's the heartbeat of the movie, and it's you can be on vacation or you can be doing something else and
Yeah.
writing. But in terms of you grew up in Southern California.
I did.
So I wonder, does that taint people, and not in a bad way, but in terms of the vision of what a career looks like versus someone that's in another state?
It's weird because in some ways it never seemed such a weird, when my friend and I were making movies as a kid, it never seemed such a weird thing that we were filmmakers, because they were filming movies on our block, outside. The biggest TV shows were right up the block, in Santa Monica. They used to film everything there. And so we were like, oh, now if I was living in a small city somewhere, it might be so impressive, or I could never be a film, because it's such a big, enormous dream. It was right outside our front door. So we were like, okay. In a good way or bad, because you don't know if you're ever going to be able to do it, and achieve a career and sustain that. So it has, I think the wide-eyed dreamer is still inside, and I need that as a kid, but then you grow up and you realize the realities of a business. You know, filmmaking is a craft, and it's but it's a business. You know, no one wants to spend millions of dollars and lose their money on your idea. You know what I mean? It's a business, unfortunately, but if you can work in it and keep, you know, as an artist, and some are blessed to be an artiste, you know, an auteur, and others are people who get to work, you know, and, you know, if I'm working in the film business, I'm a happy person. Yeah.
Do you think you realize the amount of time spent alone at a computer, at a desk? I mean, I realize you could be in a cafe writing.
Sure.
And for a lot of people that does work, but do you think that you realize and being bound by this calendar, the calendar that said, okay, this is due and I need this done by this date, and yeah, but, you know, I can't deviate from that.
You have you know, in school or college, you have a report or whatever due. You know, there's due dates for everything, but that made it seem more like a job, which in the past it was romanticized, like, oh, my specs, I'll sell it, and there'll be some weird thing that happens where you won't have to work so hard because you did the work, right? You sold the spec with all the rewrites and all the possibilities that could happen. Then when you start working in the business, you realize all the possibilities that do happen, and you're like, oh, wow, it sort of knocks down the shimmer of this romanticized, you know, driving with this, you know, I had a convertible at one time.
I don't know why that came into my head.
No, it was a 1964 Buick, which is beautiful. And I would drive up the coast, but I was like, you know, there's, you know, driving on the lot and all this stuff that you dream of, you know, but then you still have to do the work. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I worked with a lot of actors back in the restaurant days who didn't want to do the work. They loved, you know, I'm an actor, you know, I'm brooding in this. Are you taking classes? Well, no. And went on this audition because I have a good look. You're like, oh, so you just don't want to do the work, you know, or you think it's that easy. So yeah, it's changed, I think, the perception. I think once you work in something where you have this outside perception that many people might have of how amazing it is to be a writer. You're like, it is, but as a writer, take the Hollywood element out, it's you know, it's a grind. You got to write, you know, you got to come up with stuff. 35 scripts, I think about it, I go, how did I channel that many stories through this body into these things? I mean, then I go, there won't be any others in the well. How could there be? Well, that's your job as a writer, right? To come up with another story, to come up with another, you know, I mean, that's the beautiful part about going back to the well and having it be full of stuff. And that's where your living comes into play, your experiences, and living an authentic life where you're always like observing and doing things because it's your homework as a screenwriter to do that. Because you don't want to go back to your well and have it be empty. That's when you have your passion dries up and you're like, I got nothing to say. What am I doing? You know, and you shrink and you just disappear, you know? So I think also while you're trying to pursue your career, you have to live an interesting life and do things that are interesting and meet interesting people and, you know, have it all relate back to your screenwriting, because it does. It's your job to live an interesting, authentic life, and I think that helps your work.